So today we're going to be talking about medical insurance denials and how that can rob you of your retirement, even if you have Medicare. Coming up next. Hi everybody, my name is Dee Burks and this is Retirement Rescue. I have been wanting to talk about the situation with medical insurance denials for a while. There have been some things going on for my family personally, and it is so incredibly awful. I can't even tell you, but let me tell you what happened. My younger brother, he is a first assistant in surgery. He's worked in the surgical arena for 30 years. His wife is also a first assistant. She's worked in the operating for 20 years. Well, in March, at the end of March, he was experiencing a little bit of weakness and problems with his left hand, and he was afraid he might be having a little mini stroke or something of that nature. He went into the ER and they found a brain tumor the size of a golf ball. So they immediately went in to do a biopsy. They found out it absolutely was what they call a glioblastoma, which is a very aggressive brain cancer. And then he was scheduled really quickly for surgery to remove as much as they could. And he went through that process and then went on to 6 weeks of chemo and radiation. When he finished up that 6 weeks, they did a brain scan and discovered the tumor had not only completely grown back, but was actually a little bit larger. And so they had scheduled to do a minimally invasive procedure to go in and remove it as much as they could and take a little bit more of the brain tissue, which they hadn't done before because they were afraid it would give him paralysis or cause some sort of deficit. Well, starting with that, the insurance company, and this insurance company, by the way, is United Healthcare. It's not some little fly-by-night organization. It is a insurance company that insures a huge percentage of people in the United States. Almost half of the people in the United States have policies in some way or form through United Healthcare. And this company just started doing blanket denials for everything. They denied the minimally invasive surgery. Then they denied another round of chemo. It's like they had completely written him off as dead. He has been doing videos throughout this whole journey, mostly to help other people, because glioblastomas are absolutely a terminal diagnosis. It's not a matter of if you're going to die, it's just when and how long you have. But this was really the first encounter that anyone in our family has really had with these medical denials. And when you have something like aggressive cancer or stage 4 cancer or anything of that nature, it is critical that you do things quickly. Insurance companies know this. They make you do appeal after appeal. He had to do an appeal just to get chemo again. Just basic care, basic service. His surgeons had to be on the phone with these insurance companies, advocating, trying to get him the care he needed. And this is just a basic standard of care for what he has. It's not like he was asking for anything outlandish. It was just standard of care. And they kept saying no. And one of the things these insurance companies talk about all the time is how they have these checks and balances, and you can appeal and go through peer review. You know what peer review is? His neurosurgeon got on the phone with the peer, which was a retired general practitioner who has never done this kind of surgery, had no clue what it was. The doctor has to explain it to him, and then he denies it as experimental. I can't even tell you how angry the doctors were, how angry my brother is, and how angry our family is. Because our option was, because his tumor was growing so fast, we had to make a decision. Because if he had waited, it would have been too late. We had to private pay. You have to pony up the money. Do you have $50,000 for that? Just write a check, whip out a credit card. That's what they expect you to do. And these are people, my brother and his wife, who have worked for hospitals for decades. They've always had, quote, good insurance. And this is the problem with insurance and health care in America today. The companies are all concerned about shareholder value and making money. They're doing it on the backs of people they're killing. They're making decisions that those people aren't worth treatment, basic treatment. And they're getting away with it because they know if they delay long enough, the patient will die. They'll be off the hook. That's more money in the bank for their shareholders. And I just really, one of the reasons I haven't talked about it is it just makes me so angry. Makes me so angry. And don't think for 1 second, if you have Medicare, that the same thing isn't happening. It is. The reason doctors don't want to take Medicare patients, and they don't want to, because I'm sure if you've tried to find a doctor and you have Medicare, how hard is that these days? More and more doctors aren't taking Medicare patients anymore. You know why? Because they get paid pennies. They get paid nothing. The reimbursement keeps lowering and keeps lowering. They're not getting paid. They can't afford to. And so more and more of the cost is on you, the patient. It's on me. It's on us. Half of the people in the United States have some kind of medical debt. And 30% have medical debt in excess of $5,000. And some of that debt is crushing in the tens of thousands. Our family had to agree to 50 grand so he could go in and get this procedure, which, by the way, helped him immediately. Immediately. But these are decisions that responsible people who have insurance are having to make. What is your life worth? How much debt are you going to be willing to leave your family in just because you want to live to see your daughter graduate? No person should be put in that position. There are so many people who watched Breaking Bad and thought the premise was ridiculous, that this man had to go to cooking meth to make money to pay for his cancer care. That is reality in the U.S. today. How are you going to pay for it? How much debt are you willing to leave your family in? How much of your retirement is going to be sucked down by drugs that cost way more than your insurance or Medicare is willing to pay? I have a friend with MS and who has to get infusions. It wasn't until this year Medicare started paying for those. Those were $1,000 a month. She's been on Medicare for 15 years. Really? In my opinion, denial of medical services is one of the biggest threats to your retirement. It does not matter how secure you think you are. When something like this happens, just out of the blue, and by the way, my brother's 51. 51. His wife is still in her 40s. They weren't prepared for anything like this. He has a daughter about to go to college. They weren't prepared to spend this kind of money for something they're insured for. And before anyone starts talking about universal health care, I have had clients for 20 years that were Canadian, that were from the UK, that were from various parts of Europe. And universal health care, just like insurance in the US, is great if you don't use it much. If you just go see the doctor for wellness, if you have a cold now and then, if you need little things, it's great. But when you really need it and they decide you're not worth it, you don't get a choice. I had a Canadian client whose wife tore her ACL on her knee. It's a standard thing. She had to wait 8 months just to get in and have it taken care of. 8 months. I had another friend who had just turned 71 and needed a bypass. They decided he was too old. Canadian again. He had to fly to the US and pay cash. He lived into his late 80s. No one has the right to determine what your life is worth or to put a price tag that you can't afford and that your family can't afford on that life. Nobody has that right. But they're doing it, and they're doing it for profit. That is one of the things that bothers me the most. They're doing it for profit. Their shareholders are making money on denial of services and death of patients who have paid their premiums. That's why you pay your premiums. Same is true with Medicare. You have paid into Medicare your entire working life. And now it's going to deny you drugs you need. Now it's going to deny you services you need or make them so prohibitively expensive there's no way you can get them. It is a horrific situation, and it will affect all of us. It does affect all of us. Now, my brother has set up a GoFundMe account. YouTube doesn't really like GoFundMe links because they have their own donation system. Anyway, doesn't matter. I'm going to put a link to his Facebook profile. And if you scroll down, there is a link to his GoFundMe page if you want to help. But this is something serious to think about now. The best cure in the world is to take care of yourself. But any one of us can and will be in this situation. And you have to ask yourself, what are you going to do? How are you going to handle it? What if it was your family member? These are serious questions. And there are no good answers.